Well, let's get into our next story, which about me fall over in my chair yesterday.
They're so excited.
Okay, so everyone here obviously knows I favor Linux over Windows immensely. So for a long time, Valve has been rumored to be working on a secret Linux project since they publicly announced it. They're working on a secret Linux project. They couldn't announce what it was. Then about a month or so, a week ago, somewhere around there was a guy that came on a forum who said he was working for Valve, and he said the secret project's actually a compatibility mode built within Steam to allow you to run any Windows game on Linux now. And I was like, holy crap, if that's real, that's amazing. And so the Linux community blew up with that news everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Then yesterday, Valve officially announced it on the Steam community. Exactly that. A new version of Steam Play that's coming out that's going to be part of the Linux launch. The Linux version of Steam that is going to allow you to run any Windows game in Linux. So, and that's beyond huge.
Did they explain exactly how this works?
So the way it works, they did, because obviously we didn't know who they were working with or they were doing it independently. Now we know that since they've announced it, they were working with the people that made Wine, which is a compatibility program you can run in Linux to run Windows software. So the new software that they developed with Wine that runs within Steam is called Proton. And this allows for Windows games with no Linux versions currently available. It can now be installed and run directly in a Linux Steam client, complete with native Steamworks and OpenVR support. Also allows DirectX 11, DirectX 12 implementations, which will be installed within the Steam app. Unlike how you have to install DirectX 12 and 11 within like your Windows 32 file and stuff, it'll install within the Steam file. Full screen support, obviously. And the big thing is for this is that the support for Vulkan. So who here knows what Vulkan is?
It's the alternative to DirectX, ain't it?
Yes, it's the new thing being developed by it's a new thing being developed by NVIDIA and AMD together almost, because they both writing code for it. It's a driver. It's almost like a DirectX that supports both cards now, either card, to
Well,
make
they've
them
always
run.
supported both, haven't they?
Vulkan has, yes.
No, but Windows.
Yeah, but sometimes you'll have like DirectX, like DirectX 12. Like the last time it happened, DirectX 12 was supported by a huge number of NVIDIA cards, and not so much AMD cards
Then
for a
if
while.
it wasn't supported by AMD, what did they support?
Well, no, it was DirectX 11 for a while until it was full support in DirectX 12. And then AMD made their other version that was what the heck was it called? The one AMD made that was like DirectX, because they made their own version for a little while. That was alternative. That was alternative. That was alternative to DirectX.
The whole SDK thing, or is that just for program development?
No, it's for running the graphics, for processing the polygons. So now Vulkan's been huge on the scene for working with both communities. And
Mantle,
that was the other one that AMD made, which actually did run really well. But now Vulkan has pretty much become the standard, and that's what this is also giving the support for. In this new Steam app, it's going to have full support for Vulkan, which will be the standard. So, and obviously this launches in beta as of yesterday. And they had a list of games they were running on alpha with and beta now. Games they know have 0 bugs. And that's a very small list. And some of them are very new games and some of them are very old games.
Now, do people have to, like say that we already have a Steam account, right?
Yes.
Everything's on the cloud. Now, if I move this over to Linux, do I have to repurchase those games all over again, or can I just click install?
No. You can click install.
yeah.
So what will it do? It'll install the game within your game's installed within your Steam app. Obviously, it'll do the same thing, except it'll natively run off, I guess you could say, a pseudo Dell emulator to run the game.
Okay, I can do that.
Which is obviously called Proton. So this is a huge leap forward, especially for myself, because we also had another announcement earlier, software called DaVinci, huge editing software that Hollywood uses. a lot of the Hollywood is switching from Premiere, which is like I was using Premiere most of last year, and I've been using Vegas most of this year. Movie studios is switching over from Premiere to DaVinci. And it was announced today there's a free version, and it's getting supported on all 3 platforms, Windows, OS X, and Linux.
Hit him in the back of the head so
So
he chokes.
as far as this, it is, what do you call it? It's close to 100% for me to switch over my entire system to Linux and have no reason to run Windows in again. Unless I want to run, if I really want to run Origin, I'll run it in a VirtualBox.
Oh yeah, Origin.
And that's really the only program I can think of that I would need to run.
Well, Uplay.
Uplay, if you install Uplay, it'll run natively through Steam.
Oh.
If you watch it, it runs natively through Steam, but even has it, but it installs with it. It's weird how it works. But they, a lot of people did point out those third-party programs, which might give problems.
Now, you think Blizzard and Atari is going to start doing the same thing?
No, because this is not going to be the standard.
Yeah, it's
like,
big for the
I'll tell you
Linux
right-
community. It's big for the Linux community.
It's really big for the Linux community.
It's cool for the Linux community, but the Linux community is so small in comparison to Windows that this is just going to fly right under the radar and no one's going to care.
Well, that's true. That's because it's not an evil corporation.
Oh, don't stop. Every corporation is evil. Even Sony, who I
Exactly.
like, is
Well,
evil.
it's
They're
going to
all
be.
evil corporations.
I think personally, we're not going to see much of a change right away. But when Windows launches their next version, which I don't know if anybody's been reading on what's happening with Windows. As of next year, when Windows launches their next version, the rumors right now is that they're going. You can no longer buy Windows.
These are all
And this is all. And this is
if that
it.
happens,
it
it would
goes
be
right-
suicide. So I don't think it's going to happen.
So-
Because no one's going to pay a subscription to use Windows. It's
So
not gonna
this is
happen.
where Windows most likely will end up is on a subscription service. And this is what will really push people further over to Linux to game. Because they're not going to have a subscription service to, like a 12 different computers.
Also,
Like-
even if it does, again, Nate's not looking at it from the common man. He's looking at it from someone who understands Linux. I know computers pretty well. I have no clue how to get Linux to run correctly on half the shit I want to work it with. The average person doesn't know how to use Windows. I mean, doesn't know how to use Linux. They barely know how
No,
to use
you were
Windows.
right, you were
and they
right.
own a Windows computer.
I was right.
No, he was right the first one. They barely know how to use
Well,
Windows.
no, they do. Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
so for
and
instance,
they barely know how to use the Windows. Nate, your opinion on this is so biased because you like Linux. You couldn't explain Linux to me, and I know a little bit about computers. Okay, most people you know will not be able to use Linux. So even if I don't think they'll ever force you to pay for Windows. That would be insane. They would lose half their.
Well, you've
audience
always had to
because
pay
of
for
confusion.
Windows.
No, I mean as a subscription.
A subscription,
But even if they did, only like 10% would start using Linux because people are too confused by that thing to use it. The common person who just wants to buy a PC, hook it in, and play whatever they want. The people who are playing freaking Fortnite, the millions of people playing that, half of those are kids that have no clue how to use Linux.
Yeah.
I
It's
wouldn't.
that simple.
My 7-year-old nephew knows how to run Linux perfectly.
He's your nephew. Pretend
He's
like you
of
didn't show
blood.
him how to- like
Yeah, it's
sit here and lie to me and tell me you didn't show him or someone else didn't show him.
Well,
It's
my
still
older
a
nephew,
penetra-
my older nephew showed him, but yeah,
And where'd he learn that from? You?
from me.
And there we go. It goes round robin.
That's my freaking point.
No, but like, okay, so Bazinga, you know how to run OS X. Mm-hmm. Okay, so OS X is very much like Linux because they're both Unix based, and where the options are, where things go, where things are installed are very familiar and very.
I
the
do
same.
like how that works.
And they're very the same.
Yeah.
So I don't think any Mac user would have no trouble to run a Linux
Doesn't it have
software.
a terminal too?
Yeah.
But you're going even farther, the smaller. You have it's like having 60% of the market on a PC, 20% are on Mac, and then a bunch are on these other side ones like Linux and stuff like that. So now you're saying, oh, well, people who run a Mac might be able to understand this. Okay, so they increase their market from 10% to 20%. They're still not the mainstream market. That's the problem. But until Linux is a mainstream thing that's easy to use like Windows, you are not going to get that penetration from people whether you like it or not, unless they charge an extremely crazy amount of money.
Well,
Well, they are making it a lot easier to use.
well, yeah, they are.
Yes, and it's gonna take a while. I'm saying it's not there yet because
Yeah.
I can go out and ask I know a bunch of people who use computers. Nate's the only one, other than you guys, that I know who can use Linux. And I know I've got 400 people on my freaking World of Warcraft list, and I would expect 80% of them don't know how to use Linux.
Yeah. No, so the one thing is though, Grim. Okay, so 2 years ago, AMD and NVIDIA first officially announced they are making drivers for Linux at the same time as Windows now. They're not putting it on the back burner or not doing it at all, which they did for years.
Yeah.
You got to write your own drivers a lot of times because they didn't think the market was there. Now all of a sudden it's a standard. They do it right away. And then Valve going ahead and spending spending a ton of money to develop this software.
Do you understand what standard is? I think you're misusing the term standard. Standard is like they make games for Xbox, but the standard is PS4. They all develop the games for the PS4 they put on the Xbox. The standard is Windows, and they work on the other ones too. The standard is Windows. That's the market. That's the standard. That's the market standard.
I don't know,
And
Windows
all
seems
the other
automatic
ones
to me.
are the other market. Now they are working on those in the other market because they know there's a big enough market to do that. But that doesn't make it a standard. Linux is not the standard, and it won't be for a while. It may someday, but it isn't now, and it won't be for a while.
It'll become
That's
that
all I'm
if
saying.
they do start charging a monthly fee.
Well, I like to, before we end this topic, I like to quote the Linux Gamer. He's a guy I watch on YouTube. He's from Maine, and his quote was, "Is this real life?" when that article posted yesterday.
It is cool. It's a great thing to happen for the Linux community.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. The Linux community was pretty starstruck when this happened.
Boink.
Anyway, so let's get on to these last two topics.